Hello, it's that time again. I am Becky Schoenig, the host of Find Your Inner Flavor. I am one of the co-owners of Symbol. We are a healthy lifestyle-focused restaurant, both in Kirkwood and in Chesterfield, Missouri. And joining me today is Emilia Rizzuto and her product, this magic little bottle of elderberry syrup. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Hi. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I'm going to start by just sharing I'm going to try and figure out how to get this back into the screen the right way. My personal testimonial on this product right here, I just experienced it. And we hear these stories all the time, and I'm always going, are you sure? Is this your mind just playing tricks on you? So I felt it instantly when I was getting a cold Wednesday or sick, the congestion in my head, my throat starting to get that scratchy, tickly thing going on. It was 11 o'clock in the afternoon. I knew exactly the moment it was coming, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I don't have time. What am I going to do? And I started taking this. I started drinking bone broth, juicing, all of this. And then you come in that evening and I tell you, and you're going, take it every 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
What's in this bottle?
Hours.
Huh?
When you're feeling sick, you should take it every few hours. Yeah.
Oh, so what is in this bottle that just like healed me in less than 24 hours?
It works really fast. If you can catch your cold at onset, it should not really develop. It should just kind of stop it right there. So in the bottle, besides the elderberries, which have amazing properties, we also add a fresh organic ginger, literally fresh ginger that we cut up. It's organic clove, organic Ceylon cinnamon, which is different than cassia cinnamon that you usually find in the store. There's different kinds of cinnamon. One is more toxic. And ginger, cinnamon, clove, and raw honey. So we use Missouri honey. So all of that synergistically has so many different benefits where it reduces the inflammation, it helps the irritation, and it just flushes everything out. Very quick.
I woke up in the morning yesterday, still not feeling well at all, but I was taking it.
Yeah.
I went in, I made myself a tea and drank some more bone broth. And it was by 11 o'clock that yesterday, I really felt like I was completely better. I was tired. I got tired a lot easier. You know, I was more tired last night, went to bed earlier. But outside of that, oh my gosh, I'm like, hands down, take this all the
You don't need to take it like every 3 hours normally. You would just take
Right.
a day for prevention. This time of year for prevention is great because that way if you do get sick, it's so mild. You know, it's not to say that you're never going to get sick, but it's so much milder.
Is it the combination of all of the ingredients in this that does it, or is it one specific thing?
Well, the elderberries themselves, because of their anti-inflammatory and antiviral, antifungal, they have so many properties themselves. But when we add the clove, because a lot of people say, oh, I don't like the flavor of the clove. Why do you put that in there? The clove is very potent. It's antibacterial, it's antifungal. It just kills everything. So when you're thinking about all those things together, and the ginger is very anti-inflammatory as well. So all of that together makes it even stronger.
It reminds me of my childhood, because my grandparents lived on this plot of property up in Wisconsin, had pine trees, and they had an elderberry tree. And we would make elderberry syrup. To this day, it's still one of my favorite flavors ever. So when I drink this, it reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah, and kids actually really like it. We put enough honey in there where kids like it. And elderberries, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they're actually local to this region. So there's actually even their conservation department here. Elderberries grow wild in Missouri.
Wow, I had no idea that there were that many.
Yeah, the berries that we use are actually grown here in Missouri. We use Missouri berries.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about who you are and why you even created a product like this.
So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 15 years old. And back then, you know, nobody even knew what that was, or we didn't have the internet. I didn't know what we were doing. So I kind of did nothing for years. I just took medications, heavy duty medications. And as I got older and I started having my own kids, I started realizing, you know, there's more that I need to be doing. And I got into nutrition, and I went back to school and studied holistic nutrition. And then I just started making products for myself that I couldn't find anywhere, like bone broth. Back then it wasn't available everywhere. So I was making that for myself. I was making nut milks for myself and juices. And I made elderberry syrup for my family because we don't do the flu shot. We're just not a flu shot family. And so I feel like I have a responsibility because of that to make sure my kids have lots of vitamins and other things that build up their immune system. So I started making elderberry syrup for my family. And when we moved into our new neighborhood, I gave a little bottle to all the bus stop moms. We have a big bus stop. So I gave everybody a bottle of elderberry syrup for the winter. And one of the moms that lives here was just like, I want to buy this. Like, why don't you sell this? I want to buy this. And I just never thought about selling it. And so I tried to sell it on one of the Facebook pages. And all of a sudden there was like all these people that wanted it. And so the mom that suggested that I sell it, Jennifer, she's now my partner and we make it together. And it just came out of nowhere, just by accident, really.
I love the story behind that. But what I love more than anything is these connections that I find with yourself. It have all came through our restaurant, our Symbol location. And I remember you coming in quite frequently with Zara all the time. I think you guys were dropping your kids off at preschool or something.
So our kids went to a little preschool called Raintree that was right over on Manson and Manchester. We would drop them off. We would walk around Queenie Park and we would come get a juice. It was like every day this is what we did because it was like when our kids were really little. And we would just sit there and talk about all these ideas that we had, and we would chat with you and we would drink our juice every day.
And you would order the Keep It Green, no apple.
Apple. I didn't want the sugar.
You wanted lemon added in it. And did you add the ginger into it and turmeric?
Yeah, ginger and turmeric.
Yeah.
Every day they were just like, here's your juice.
I know. And there was something there is always something about certain people when they start coming in and you start getting to know them. There's an aura or an energy about them. And you've been one that has always been like on the radar. And then when you created this product, and I was seeing it last year popping up, you're actually the very first product we ever brought in. Well, outside of kombucha, the beverage side of things because we don't make it. But this was the first product we brought in that was not something that we were making ourselves. And it was because we believed so strongly in what it was and who you were and the quality behind it. And we can hardly keep it in the shops.
Well, what's interesting is when we started selling it, we were just selling it kind of like on a crafted page, and we were meeting people like in parking lots. In Kirkwood was one of our biggest spots. And
there was drug deals going on all over the place.
There was like a line like behind my car of people trying to get this elderberry syrup, and they're like, what is happening here? It just, people, what it was? We get testimonials every day because it really works. And a lot of these are moms that are, their kids, moms are working and their kids need to go to school and they can't sit home with them for all this time. You don't want your kid having the flu. So when they find something that works, they really use it.
You have another product. It's one that you can make at home too, correct?
You mean this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we created a dry kit because what was happening was a lot of people were asking us to make it with no honey, to modify it for them. And so if you're doing keto diet or if you're diabetic and you just don't want the extra sugar, we have this product where we dehydrate our own berries. These are still the same Missouri berries. So we're not buying European dried berries in a bag. We're actually dehydrating our own berries. And we add and clove, all like dried sifted ingredients. And then you just make it yourself. You could boil noodles. You could make this. You just dump it in a pot, boil it, and strain it. You're done.
Okay, so this in itself and all of the testimonials are all out there. Huge supporter, huge benefits. But let's talk a little bit more about you. And I'm fascinated by you being 15 years old and finding out you had Crohn's.
Yes.
What was that? What was that like?
It was horrible. First of all, Crohn's nowadays, tons of people that have it. There are so many people that talk about it. There's better testing for it. So when I was a kid and I was diagnosed, we didn't even know what it was. And back then I was a competitive figure skater and, I was in high school. So you have all these things going on. And all of a sudden you're diagnosed with like a bowel disease. So it's kind of a complicated disease where you can't eat, you're malnourished, you're constantly having to go to the bathroom. So not only is it like embarrassing, but you can't really live your normal life. I mean, I had to quit figure skating. I missed a lot of school. I missed a lot of activities. I would never go and live in a college dorm. I was hospitalized a lot. I was in and out of hospitals. I was on medications that were damaging my other organs. So it was tough to try to balance all that. And back then they said, it doesn't matter what you eat. So every doctor, and I was living in New York at that time, I'm from New York, and we went to the top. My parents took me to like the best doctors in New York, and they said, oh, it doesn't matter what you eat, you have to take these medications. So I lived on immunosuppressant therapies for years, where they basically try to suppress your white blood cell count so it doesn't attack your body because it's an autoimmune condition.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was growing up with this, you know, I was in and out of hospitals and trying to manage it. And it wasn't until I actually got pregnant with my first baby and I was hospitalized again when I was 4 months pregnant. And I'm thinking, there's got to be something else. And so I started doing my own research because I had no other option. You know, all they can offer me was more medication. I was on Remicade at the time. And so I was doing the highest dose of the treatment at the highest frequency, and I'm pregnant. So I was kind of nervous. I was really worried. And so then I started, you know, digging into like, what can I do for myself? And I tried gluten-free diet. I tried, you know, there's different protocols like the specific carbohydrate diet and where you just live on bone broth basically and kind of build back up. You kind of start with baby food again and you try to rebuild. And these things help, you know, they really do help.
So when did you start noticing the turnaround and the shift of what you were doing was actually helping?
You know, to be honest with you, it was a big combination of things. So stress is a big player for Crohn's disease. And I think, you know, the gut is connected to the brain. And so all of that really affects it. So I really started incorporating a lot of mind, body, spirit things as well. I started noticing that, you know, the food wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
It was helping, but it wasn't enough. And it wasn't until I started doing classes on, you know, building your intuition and meditation and Reiki. And I really brought all of that in. And that's when I started feeling better as a person. I was less anxious and nervous and worried. And, you know, you just kind of mellow out a little bit. And I started doing yoga and I was able to reduce medications. I mean, you know, things that a lot of people can't do. Instead of taking more, I'm now on a lot less medication at less frequent doses. I live a completely normal life. I haven't been hospitalized since that time I was pregnant with my son.
Really?
Huge things for people with Crohn's disease, because usually it gets worse as you get older.
I'm listening to your story and having some comparisons and reminders to my own. It was when I was in my 20s, right after I had my daughter, that I started having major stomach issues, and they were not able to diagnose. They were getting ready to go into the whole Crohn's side of things. And it was also at that time that I was on all kinds of medications for bipolar, depression, and I found my spiritual community and started diving into intuition, meditation, mindset practices. And I was able to reverse pretty much everything that we're talking about now. I will also say, as I've gotten older and knowing where my dad's history is at with CVS, chronic vomiting syndrome, which is migraines of the stomach, my sister having diverticulitis and some other issues out there, I'm looking at myself going, okay, where am I not being super clean and strict with my diet, and having some tests done. And we are testing to see if I do have the precursors for Crohn's, because it can't always show back up in my later years. And I started having some of the similar symptoms this last year.
Yeah, hormonal issues can change that as well.
And the stress, it makes complete sense, because last year I would say was probably one of the most stressful years I have ever had. So it's going back to all of those things that we've learned throughout our life and pulling it back in.
Absolutely. And I think just learning to be happy, you know, I think that's such a big thing. It's that's our choice. We can choose to be happy or not to be happy, no matter what is going on in our lives. And I think that that's one of the biggest things. You know, when you were saying about how when you were pregnant, this started showing up for you, one of the biggest reasons that I went back to school, and I think this is so important for women to hear, because after I had my daughter, I was severely depressed. I had really bad postpartum depression. And I thought there was something wrong with me. They put me on Lexapro. They were just wanting to give me more medication and more medication. And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't have a bad life. I have a good life. I have a loving husband. I have a great family. I have these beautiful, healthy kids. Like, I shouldn't be depressed. I shouldn't be this sick. And I started working with a naturopath, and I did a lot of blood work. And I was so vitamin and mineral deficient that was probably causing my symptoms. So after a few infusions and vitamins and changing my diet, doing a really nutrient-dense diet, I was off the Lexapro in 3 months and then feeling completely normal. So there's so many women out there that have had these babies and then are miserable and are suffering, and they're just need some vitamins.
Yeah, it was, again, very similar comparison. I had really bad postpartum depression and all of these medications. And I started finding natural supplements, and I was working with a naturopath, and I was getting on all of these things. And I remember reaching out to my psychiatrist who wanted to put me back onto another medication. And I was the one that was keeping a calendar of when I was having my highs, when I was having my lows, and seeing that there was a hormonal component to it. And I said to my psychiatrist, I don't want to go back this way. I want to try this. And then I received the letter in the mail stating that they were refusing to treat me any longer. So I do think oftentimes we're sitting out there feeling like we are the only ones dealing with this. And where's our community, and how can where are our resources? Because when you are in the lowest of lows, you really feel like you are alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to have a community. And I actually think that through our elderberry syrup, we've developed a community. We have so many moms in this group that talk to each other, that relate to each other, that give advice on other things. So it's become amazing. Like, just that's the surprising element that happened. We didn't expect that.
It's amazing how we start playing with something for ourselves or doing something that is for ourselves, and how quickly it spreads. I talk to more and more entrepreneurs, business owners, that is exactly how they created and started their businesses. So what is the future? What's the future of this product right here? What are you planning on doing?
It's kind of grown so fast this last year that, we feel like we're almost chasing it. So we've actually hired some people. We're, in a much bigger kitchen, and hopefully we can have, maybe even somebody making it for us, hire more people. We love to hire moms too, because we feel like, moms need to be home with their kids as well. Like, kids need their moms. And so it's great to find a mom who can make time for her kids and also, help us grow our business and do something for herself. So we definitely need to hire more people and make more syrup. We'd love to educate people as well, because the syrup is not just for colds and flus. It's super high in iron, which is pretty interesting because iron is really hard to get. A lot of women are iron deficient. So it's high in iron, it's high in potassium. It could be great for managing blood pressure, managing diabetes, great for heart health, great for your skin because it has so many antioxidants in it. So just educating people that it's beyond the cold and the flu, and just getting it out there, because at this point there's 2 of us making it. We just brought in a couple more people. We can only make so many bottles of syrup because we're still buying ginger from Whole Foods that's organic and cutting it up ourselves, and there's only so much of that you can do. So we really need to bring in more people, have more people helping us, and make more syrup and get it out. We have a lot of requests for the South County area, kind of more into the city, which we're not there yet. So we really want to expand.
I just lost train of thought. Like, where was I gonna? I'm like going, I had a question. It was a good question. What can you buy this year round, or is it only like a seasonal thing? I know that this is like the height of flu and cold season, but can you buy it all year?
Yes, we make it all year.
Will you ever run out of elderberries?
Because I mentioned earlier, elderberries grow here in Missouri. There are multiple farms that we have found. Right now, we love the farm that we're using, and hopefully they won't run out. But if there are other sources we can go to that are still within Missouri.
Okay. And tell us something maybe nobody knows about you. Let's go off subject. What's one of Emilia's little secrets in her pocket?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I, well, I already told you guys I was a figure skater when I was younger. I love being on the ice.
Do you
That's the,
still?
still, yeah, I love
Do you do
ice skating.
the swirls and the spins?
It's been a long time, but yeah, I actually just bought a pair of figure skates off a used site, and we're gonna go ice skating next week with my kids. I like to be alone, which is kind of funny. I love my own personal time and being alone and having quiet time. I like quiet. I don't
Have you
know.
always liked quiet? Or is
I'm
that, would you say
always
that's
very
a new thing?
noise, and I've always been sensitive. I think even as a kid, I remember when I was in loud rooms or a lot of noise. I just think I'm just sensitive in that area. So I like meditation and quiet, and that really makes me feel better because I get very like ADD-ish.
Overstimulated?
Stimulated, yeah. So it helps to bring me down. And I love running a business. I never thought I would. I used to be in the fashion industry. I went to FIT when I was living in Manhattan, and I always wanted to be in fashion. So I used to produce photo shoots for like 15 years. So this is a
That,
completely different new thing for me. And
that's great. We've had conversations because I've had some photo ideas and have, I think I've shared them with you before, and or I remember hearing that, and then it kind of like trickled a little thing in my head of, oh, we should collaborate on something fun like that.
it is always fun. And then I guess something else, my family actually is not from here. So my family are Russian immigrants. So we're first generation here. My kids are actually first generation born in this country.
Wow. Okay, so that's something I had no idea.
Yeah, my parents came here in 1979 from Russia.
So how old were you?
I was born in Italy
Oh,
because I was 3 months old when they left Italy. So back then they were Jewish refugees. So they left Odessa and they had to go through Austria and Italy, and then we landed in the Bronx.
oh
And
my.
so,
How did you end up in St. Louis?
well, my husband does a radio show here in St. Louis, and when I met him in New York, he was in radio back then, and we were 19, 20, 21 years old. And New York is the number one market in radio, and it's very hard to have your own show. And so he was doing a lot of, producing shows and having to drive to like Jersey to do shows and satellite radio. And he got a job offer here to have his own show. And we just thought to ourselves, and I had just finished FIT at the time, and I was working, in the fashion industry, but I thought, hey, whatever, we'll just go for 2 years. We'll go for 2 years, we'll try something out, build our resumes, and then come back home. And that was 15 years ago.
What do you like the most about St. Louis?
I like how easy it's easier, I think. We came from New York City where it's so expensive and there's just a lot going on and it's so much faster pace. There's a lot more pressure, I think. I think it's so laid back here. Everybody's really nice. We live in such a great community. You don't have to spend all your money on your housing. We've developed a really good community here. It's just a nice way of life. I think it's fun for the kids to grow up here. We have a lot of friends that are almost like family now. I do miss my family a lot. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I like saying St. Louis is one of the biggest small town cities out there. It's like I think for those that are moving here as they're older, it can be hard to find your community and feel like you are a part of something. But when you do, it's like you really feel connected and it feels like that small town.
And I also think that St. Louis is very loyal to St. Louis. So, it is a very strong community, like you said, and they support things that are, like our business is really, we try to support local business and they support us back.
Yeah, that is very true. I also think that a lot of it is the communities that you're in also get to know who you are. And when you put yourself out there, just like you found your moms who needed the elderberry syrup.
Right.
Where else can you pick it up? I know we do sell it at both of the symbol locations, Chesterfield and in Kirkwood. Where else can people find it?
So you can go to the Natural Way in Fenton if you're that way. In St. Charles, Optima Nutrition up right on Main Street. The Elderberry Place, which is a fun store in O'Fallon. We just started LB's in Wentzville. Blooming Daisies is another market in Cottleville. Then we are in, I don't miss anybody. in Illinois too, in Edwardsville, there's Unfreed, it's a chiropractic office. There's another chiropractic office, Back on Track. Am I missing anybody? I'm not missing anybody.
It's okay. If you're missing anything, or is there a link that you can post in the comments that will let okay, if you can add that link into the comments, and then it becomes an easy resource for anybody to find it. I will say we sell out of this very quickly. We try to stay on top of it as much as we can.
Restock you as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, but, and I would think that almost all of the locations are selling, every place that you.
Yeah, they do well. A lot of them, believe it or not, the ones out west do really well too. And some of the locations sell like 100 bottles a month. You know, people really, it's a lot of work for us.
It is. It is. Emilia, I want to thank you for joining us today. Is there anything else that you want to add or share before we close this out?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, obviously. And I do want to say that your restaurant, you know, having that for like when, like you mentioned, my friends are, and I would come all the time. There are not a lot of options in St. Louis. There's become more and more for places where you can go and get really good food that you don't have to worry about. Because someone like me who can't eat gluten and can't eat dairy and I have, you know, really dietary restrictions. And when you go out to eat, you're always like, oh, am I going to find something to eat? Am I going to be that freak that sits there asking 700 questions to the waiter and being annoying? So it's such a good place to have where you can go and feel comfortable and know that you're safe eating there. And it is a great place to form community. So I just want people to know that if they haven't been to Symbol, like our customers that don't know you in your restaurant, definitely support that part of the community, because then we can expand. You can expand and people find a place where they can relate to other people. It's a great place to go.
Thank you. I always appreciate a testimonial from you guys as well, because it's the circle that keeps all of us kind of going. Absolutely. And flowing. And we recognize and realize that the health coaches, the doctors, the practitioners out there are feeding us by sending in their patients to see us. And so by us all kind of supporting each other and rising each other up, we all win in the end. Okay, well, Emilia, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Again, I am Becky Schoenig. I am one of the co-owners of Symbol. Symbol is located in both Kirkwood and in Chesterfield, Missouri. We are a healthy lifestyle-focused restaurant. We serve paleo, autoimmune, shape reclaimed, and the list kind of goes on and on. 100% whole food ingredients, where there really are no hidden secrets in what it is that we do. So thank you again for joining us, and I will see people next Friday. Thanks, Emilia.
Bye. Thank you. See you soon.